Sewing of uniform half skirt with box pleats. In the previous session, we cut the fabric pieces for the uniform half skirt. We will now sew the fabric pieces together. At the end of the session, you will be able to sew the fabric pieces for a uniform half skirt. Let's first familiarize with the tools and materials required for sewing a uniform half skirt. They are cut-out fabric pieces, matching thread, sewing machine, a pair of small scissors, measuring tape, hand sewing needle, hook, and iron box. We will first join the skirt pieces with a French seam. We will sew only one side now. We have already learned how to sew a French seam. Take the two skirt pieces and place the side seam without the mark with the wrong sides facing each other. Sew with a 1/8 inch seam allowance along the straight cut edge, starting and ending with a reverse stitch. Open the seam and press it with your fingers as shown here. Placing the right sides facing together, sew a 3/8 inch seam allowance, starting and ending with a reverse stitch, enclosing the previous seam. Next, we will hem the side opening on the other side of the skirt. Starting from the waistline until the notch, fold the cut edge 1/4 inch twice towards the wrong side and press it flat. Then top stitch right next to the fold, starting and ending with a reverse stitch. Repeat the same for the other end also. Next, we can notch the waistband. Let's see how to do it. For that, take the waistband, fold it into half, and snip a little corner off. This notch indicates the right hand side seam. Mark a 1/2 inch overlap for the seam allowance on one end and fold it and align the mark with the side seam notch. Snip a little corner off at the fold. Repeat the same for the other side also. These two notches indicate the center front and the center back of the half skirt. Now let's learn how to make box pleats for the half skirt. This involves a bit of calculation and a few things to take care of. Measure the distance between the side seam notch and the center front notch of the waistband. Here it is 6 inches. Half of this will be the width of one box pleat. Here it will be 3 inches. To get the depth of each box pleat, we need to find half of 3 inches, which is 1.5 inch. Next, take the skirt piece and start measuring 1.5 inches from the waistline and make a mark. Continue making 1.5 inch marks till the other end. Make sure the tailor's chalk you're using is sharp, otherwise using a thick tailor's chalk could change the measurement. Hold the first mark down and fold the second mark over to the hemmed edge. The third mark will automatically align with the first mark. Now sew the pleat with a 3/8 inch seam allowance about halfway through the pleat. Then hold on to the 4th mark and bring the 5th mark under so that the 6th mark aligns with the 4th mark. Now sew and fix the pleat about halfway. Now we have our first box pleat completed. In the same manner as we started folding the first box pleat, hold the 7th mark down and bring the 8th mark over to the last fold of the previous pleat. Keep pleating like this till the other end of the fabric. Try to be as precise as possible otherwise the skirt piece will be either too long or too short for the waistband. Iron the pleats straight down to the hem, keeping the same folds of the box pleats. Thus we have finished pleating the box pleats. Next, we will see how to sew the belt loops. Take one of the cut-out fabric pieces for belt loops and fold the strip into half and press the fold. Open it and bring both the cut edges towards the fold line and again press the folds on either sides flat. Then bring those folds on top of one another and sew close to the folded edges on either sides of the strip. Repeat this to make the remaining 3 belt loops also. Now let's see how to place the belt loops on the skirt piece. With the skirt piece right side on top, place the first belt loop at the end of the first box pleat. Leave the next 2 box pleats free and place the next belt loop at the beginning of the 4th box pleat. We will place the 3rd belt loop at the end of the 5th box pleat. Again we will leave the 2 center pleats free and we will place the 4th belt loop at the beginning of the last box pleat. Now that you have understood where to place the belt loops on the skirt piece, you could now sew and fix all the belt loops. Next, we can sew the waistband on the skirt piece. For that, first align the side seam notch of the waistband with the side seam of the pleated skirt right sides together. You could see the half-inch seam allowance of the waistband sticking out on either sides of the skirt piece. Sew the waistband to the skirt piece with a half-inch seam allowance starting and ending with a reverse stitch. Turn the skirt and press the seam open with the seam allowance facing towards the waistband. Again turn the skirt piece and on the other side of the waistband, fold the cut edge half-inch towards the wrong side and press it flat. Again fold the waistband into half on either ends. Align the folded seam allowance, but shift the cut edge of the inner waistband about 1/4 inch outward in an angle. Now sew along the short ends of the waistband right next to the skirt piece with a half-inch seam allowance, taking the straight edge as reference. Repeat this for the other side also. Then turn the waistband to its right side, ensuring neat corners. Align the folded edge of the inner waistband with the previous seam and top stitch all along the waistband, starting at one end, and when getting to the other end, turn and stitch right next to the edge and again turn and stitch along the upper fold of the waistband and down the short side. When getting to the last corner, turn again and sew over the starting stitches and end with a reverse stitch. Let's see how to fix the belt loops. Stitch all the 4 belt loops half-inch away from the waistband onto the skirt with a reverse stitch. Then bend the other end 3/8 inch inward and align the fold with the fold of the outer waistband and stitch with the reverse stitch. Repeat this for all 4 of them. Let's see how to fix the adjustable hook closure. Take one of the smaller strips and mark 3 by 8 inch from one end. Then take the longer piece and fold it ½ inch with the short end up. Place the fold at the 3 by 8 inch mark and hold it under the presser foot and sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. From the cut edge, measure ½ inch and make a mark. From there again, measure and make a mark. Now fold the fabric such that the 2 marks align and sew a few stitches to keep the fold fixed. Again measure ½ inch from where the last fold ended and make a mark, and repeat the same procedure as we did in the previous step. Then fold the remaining piece over to the last pleat and sew it. Press the pleats in the same way to the other cut edge. Place the other short strip aligned under the other folded cut edge and sew the pleats fixed. Turn the piece to its right side and open the seams. Fold the first seam allowance at the sides under and then the one along the length. Center it on the waistband of the back part of the skirt and stitch all around the folded edges of the narrow strip. Then repeat the same for the other side also. Next, we will sew the left hand side seam with a French seam. As we did earlier, sew the other side seam of the half skirt with a French seam. Make sure not to stitch on top of the 5-inch hem made for skirt opening. Now let's sew the bottom hem. At the bottom of the half skirt, fold the cut edge 2 inches to the wrong side and press it flat all around the bottom, keeping the side seam allowances towards the back. Then fold it again. Make sure that the final fold also measures 2 inches. Now start sewing from one side seam next to the first fold all around the bottom of the skirt piece, ending with a reverse stitch. Finally, we will fix a hook onto the inner waistband of the front part of the skirt. Let's turn the half skirt to the right side and iron it nicely. Thus we have finished making a uniform half skirt with box pleat. It is very important to verify the various aspects of quality of the finished product. So let's do a quality check to ensure that our half skirt is of good quality. Check the neatness of the stitched lines and the reverse stitches, even and parallel seam allowances. Check if the waist measurement has come out to be 12 inches, that is 11 inches plus the overlap. Check if the waistband is evenly 1.5 inch wide. Check if the belt loops are fixed in the right places and fixed upward in a straight manner. Check if the pleats are arranged evenly. Check the full length of the skirt. Check if the bottom hem is 2 inches. Check if the hand stitches on the hook are neat and without knots. In this session, we have learned how to sew the fabric pieces for a uniform half skirt with box pleats. Before we conclude, let's take a look at the key points involved in sewing a uniform half skirt with box pleats. Step 1. Join the skirt pieces with a French seam. Step 2. Hem the left side opening of the skirt piece. Step 3. Notch the waistband. Step 4. Pleat the box pleats. Step 5. Stitch the belt loops. Step 6. Fix the adjustable hook closure. Step 7. Sew the left hand side seam with a French seam and sew the bottom hem. Step 8. Fix a hook onto the inner waistband of the front part of the skirt. Step 9. Iron the product neatly and check for quality. With that, we've come to the end of this session.